seeing users from a mobile react and connect to AskMen?
Well, what we noticed so far is that the medium itself is obviously different, and I think that the attention span, which is still relatively short online, is by a factor of 2 or 3x even shorter in the mobile world. And so, on average, articles that we know perform well, when we look at the average time or the amount of use or how users discover the site and click off on other related links, has dropped significantly. And I think this has more to do with the fact that because you're getting small niblets of content, you don't have both the setting of sitting in a chair and looking at a desktop to get this to spend as much time reading and consuming. And so for us now, that's actually a huge challenge. We have to sit down and almost create what we call the light version of every article that we publish. So we have the outline for every article. We'll build it out where you'll have your standard 1,000 words, and then we'll have a shorter version that whose sole use, and the only time you're going to see it is if you actually access the same article on your smartphone. And that's a huge shift for us.
And what about if we broaden the definition of mobile to start to include tablets? Has that kind of created any sort of shift in behavior with your readers?
Well, like I was mentioning earlier, Sundays went from our weakest day of the week to our strongest. And all of that, when we looked at all of our statistics as to what was occurring, it was all iPad usage. It was the phenomenon of you sitting on your sofa and just consuming content on your tablet in a more leisurely way. And so all of a sudden we have to think of, if there are particular times of the day where the tablet experience is more likely to be used, then we have to adapt the type of content that we published. Our end goal is actually to output all content optimized to whatever platform you consume. So you'll have a tablet-friendly version versus a desktop version. But the type of content that you're actually going to read on a tablet is very different than what you might read on a Monday morning. So for example, we've noticed things like lunchtime is when anything to do with health and fitness works really well. Anything to do with romance or dating works better at night, and anything to do with career or travel works best on a Monday or Tuesday. And so by understanding when you're sitting down on a Sunday on your sofa, the type of content you're consuming, we will actually readapt our editorial schedule.
Okay, that's really interesting. We hear similar things echoed about how Sunday is becoming the tablet day, particularly around sort of sales houses.
Right.
I mean, we're speaking with Guild Group, and for them, I think Sunday is their biggest shopping day.
Biggest shopping, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all great, and sort of starting to see the dominance of mobile. I think you guys are 30% versus a market average. Certainly here in the UK, I think we're about 7.5% of traffic. But we also, could we say that we finally now arrived in sort of the video era of the internet?
Absolutely. I think that I would almost argue that we arrived a year or two ago. I think we've gone to a point now where consumers are just naturally expecting that when they're consuming text content, that there should be a video accompaniment. The biggest issue with video online is that the attention span we give what we might see on a television is very, very different than what you see online. And so in many ways, when I'm talking to our video team, the way I try to describe it to them is that your first 5 seconds of your clip has to sell the next 5 seconds. Your second 5 seconds, and the next 5 seconds, because the ability to click away is so incredibly easy. There isn't necessarily, it isn't the match of the day where you have to sit there, it's your team and you want to watch it. There's so much choice out there. And so the way that you build video online has to be even more ADD, and it has to be to the point. It has to be shorter, funnier all the time, or at least entertaining, or else you lose your audience. And some of the early content that was produced, and I still see coming from some of the traditional brands, is still very much this long form, let's give lots of context, let's build it out. And it's not how people are using video content. And so we're constantly battling to get shorter, to have as much takeaway, which is why we're building annotations into our videos so that even if you see a 10-second clip, even if you're in the back of a taxi and you can't hear it, you could at least read and draw whatever lesson we're trying to teach.
Well, following that rule, Ricardo, that's been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
No, that's great.
Thank you.